and welcome to the show because you are now tuned into a brand spanking new Monday Night Live. That's right. AKA the Hangout Stream, AKA the Chill Stream, baby. All fired up and having some fun for February 6th, 2023. Brought to you by yours truly, the man, broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Because if you don't know by now, you can visit www.livefreeliverich.com or simply Google this name. You can find out, toots. How's your week, people? You can let me know in the comment section down below. I'm going to try to keep this, let me brief you guys on what's going on the show tonight. So I do have a featured video for tonight, and it's quite lengthy, and it'll probably take up the bulk of this show. But it also kind of dovetails. It dovetails with a hot topic that I previously pitched. But the video itself, even though I was tagging the video, it's not necessarily it wasn't specifically made for that hot topic. However, the content of the video does kind of, like I say, dovetail with a previously pitched hot topic. So I will be addressing the video live, but I will be doing so kind of through the lens of that specific hot topic. It'll make more sense once we get to that portion of the show. I also have plenty of announcements to make for tonight. I will be also closing the show out with a little bit of reading time where we're going to be discussing some cheap and nasty jewelry. So I guess I'll find out what that's all about. But first things first, I take this time to slide into my first segment of the night where I like to talk about some books that are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. So we have up first tonight, this comes from Michael Lopez, second time contributor to the show, I believe. And he says, John suddenly returns home after being abducted and spending 6 years on Franesh, another world. Now he's home and he's brought the quest system along with him. This quest system allows those with it to complete quests assigned by the system for EXP and attribute points. All right. Already getting Gamer Bro vibes, or almost like a Ready Player One kind of deal here with Quest System Earth, initiated by Michael Lopez. So let's check this one out here. All right, there's the cover. Let's check out this blurb, shall we? So starting from the top, John suddenly returns home after being abducted and spending 6 years on Franesh, another world. Now he's home and he's brought the quest system along with him. This quest system allows those with it to complete quests assigned by the system to earn EXP and even attribute points. Sounds cool, right? Except now dungeons are appearing all over the world, and only a few people that were summoned to other worlds and returned from them have the power to defeat them. Amid all these strange new occurrences, John attempts to reconnect with his former life and his family, but that may prove more difficult than clearing the dungeons for the 17-year-old. He has the strength and abilities to clear these early dungeons alone, but he can't possibly protect the Earth from this new phenomena all by himself. Will the other few around the world with the quest system be able to manage their dungeons? Could this be the next step of human evolution, or could it be humanity's doom? 199 pages of teen and young adult ebooks, paranormal and urban fantasy. Paranormal. That is Quest System Earth initiated. Of course, all these books are suggested to me directly by the publishers themselves, whether they are self-pub authors or it is from an indie label or a small press company. Coming up next, we have, this is from Brian Bowers. Check out my mystery thriller novel, Dead Beach. And he just shares a link directly from his website or directly to his website. So you can check out his website there. Okay. A beautiful woman disappears in the dead of night, and a frantic search begins to find her. Ernie Thompson fears his brother is the main suspect in the case and scrambles to find answers before it's too late. Questions arise. Why did she suddenly leave without a word? Could she have been the victim of a horrible crime? Who knows where she's gone? The search intensifies in the small town, and police and citizens are called together to find her. Suspicions are rampant around those close to her, and questions abound about who is behind her disappearance. There are suspects and clues, but there are no answers until the search leads to the cruel and quiet waters of notorious Death Beach. 402 pages of kidnapping thrillers, vigilante justice thrillers, crime thrillers. That one sounds pretty interesting. I'll have to go ahead and add that one to the old TBR list. Oh yeah, this isn't just discovery for you guys. This is very much about discovery for me as well. This is a way to discover. This is kind of a platform here, a way of discovering what is going on in the indie scene, discovering new indie authors. You know, I try not to be. The thing about it is, I don't want to be niche. Like I don't want to just be like I only cover horror or I only cover a specific subgenre. Because the thing about the underground scene that's very fascinating to me is just how vast it is. I have an interest in a lot of different subcultures. So the underground scene covers so much, like it's so vast. So like I don't want this show or this live stream to be kind of like pigeonholed and do like just one specific genre, because there's just so much to cover out there. And for me personally, I have kind of an eclectic taste when it comes to the books that I read and stuff. I don't just have like a favorite type of genre. Like I just appreciate good works, period. Like if it's well written, it's well written. I mean, for instance, like I guess one thing I would say that I'm kind of biased against is romance. Like I don't go seeking out romance novels, and also you know, like you know, really lowbrow stuff. Like I'm not really interested in that. Mostly just because I find it boring. Like am the type of person that I want there to be some kind of substance to the work that I'm reading, and it kind of challenge me intellectually. Not always. I'm cool with palate cleansers, but it's got to be, there's got to have some amount of substance to it. Hey, James, how you doing, man? Nice to make your acquaintance. Always on the lookout, man. I'm always on the lookout for other indie authors who are proactive in the scene, I should add. Who are moving and shaking. Moving and shaking. All right, up next. This comes from Jen Elvy. She's had one of her books covered on the stream before. She says, hi. She writes a little note, says, hi, and thank you. My new book, More Perfect Prompts, is out now. It is a sequel to The Perfect Prompt and contains even more poetry and prompts. Give it a try. Ideal for introducing children to poetry. Oh, very good. Very good. Very good. Definitely want to serve to children need entertainment too, and I definitely think it's good when there are creators out there that want to inspire, serve as inspiration for the next generation, if you will. Because yeah. Yeah, glad to have you, man. Drafting your book. We were talking about yours. We were talking about. You were talking about your work. I was just coming from another live stream because I'm hop into live streams. I've subscribed to quite a few people in like the Booktube, Authortube, just like creative sphere in general. This indie scene is blowing up, and it's blowing up fast. And I was just coming from a live stream before I hopped on here, and met this guy, or saw this guy from that live stream, and we were talking about your work. You were talking about your work, The Undying Emperor. So we'll be getting to that during a future live stream. I'm going to be reading. He gave me permission to read a little piece of that work, so I'm appreciative of that. Looking forward to that as well. But we'll cover that in a minute. Let's see what's up next here. So more perfect prompts. This is more perfect prompts, more poems to inspire your creativity. All right, there's the cover. Let's check out this blurb here. Did you enjoy The Perfect Prompt? Well, now I bring you its long-awaited sequel, More Perfect Prompts. Set your imagination free with more whimsical poems to inspire you to create, whether you respond with writing or art or maybe something else. May you find inspiration within these pages. 63 pages of children's poetry, children's fantasy, and magic books. What's in that cover there? I almost thought, at first I almost thought that was like a graveyard or something in the cover there, but I'm not 100% sure of what I'm looking at. If you see this, Jen, maybe you leave me a comment and let me know. It's hard to tell. There it is. All right, we have one more for tonight, and one more book for this week to cover. And apparently we're going out with a bang, because this one comes from Trey Real and just shares a link to her book, Addicted Sex Fiend. Yes. Trey Real likes to keep it spicy, known for the spice. All right, there is the cover. Very salacious looking cover. Addicted Sex Fiend by Trey Real. Here is the blurb. My name is Attorney Paris Thomas. I'm a mother, a wife, and a sex fiend. My addiction comes with a hefty price tag. There are secrets that will be exposed. My life, as I know, will take a turn in the worst way. The people around me are not who I thought they were. I have to fight for my mental and physical by any means. Taking this roller coaster ride with me through my sexcapades to see if I have it in me to cash out on the price tag life has served me, or will it confine me to a world that is confined by New World Order? 70 pages of Black and African American erotica, urban erotica. All right, and those are the books. Those are the books for this week. And be sure to tune in tomorrow, or if you're watching this on the replay, just go ahead, shoot over to the community tab, and you can cast your vote for which one out of those 4 books you thought had the most text appeal. Yes, that's right. So in other words, which one out of those 4 books would you be most likely to pick up? And if you'd like to discover more from the independent market, you can head on over to my shorts tab or my playlist tab, and you can open yourself up some mystery packs. Inside each mystery pack, you're going to see a cover card which reveals a book by an independent author that was recognized by the LFLR network, and it also includes a link in the description to an editorial written specifically on that work by yours truly. And be sure, if you want to check out any of the other videos across this entire channel, and you leave some comments. You don't just have to participate live. I know Mondays can be busy for a lot of people, and that's fine. This is a time slot that works for me. So this is when I air live. If you can make the show live, you can be a live participant of the show. Okay. You want to stop by, visit the show, something like that, we can work that out as well. But otherwise, I try to make these shows so they're kind of like evergreen and they have substance to them. So there's always a reason to go back and watch previous episodes of the show. And if you leave me a comment, you can go ahead, leave me a comment. It's not always just one and done, and I move on. I'm willing to go back and I will review comments left on previous episodes, and I'll address your comments. I don't just, I'm not just going to like your comment and move on, whatever. I actually have an entire segment of this show dedicated to addressing comments live on the air, and I call Your Comments Matter. If you want to leave me some comments on any video across the entire channel, you can do so, and your comment will be featured and addressed live on the air during a future broadcast. And the reason why I do that, like, I feel like it's a little bit more personal when I do it that way. Like, and plus the comment section down below, it gives you a little bit more room. Like you can write down a little bit more words, almost like you're putting like an entire blog post down. So you can really leave like a thought-provoking type comment or a thoughtful comment and really like take the time to like if you are joining in on a hot topic discussion, for instance, then you can really like hash out your thoughts and like lay them out like in an organized kind of cohesive type of way that I can then turn around. And when I'm addressing it live on the air, like it's not just a jumbled mess. I could just kind of go down through your points like as you have them laid out in your comment. So it's just another way of being able to, make the show a little bit more interactive in that way. So moving right along here, I'm going to, like I said before, I do have a featured video to cover for this episode. It's pretty lengthy, but it also kind of dovetails with a previously pitched hot topic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that for a little bit later, and I'm going to jump right into some announcements. So let's get into some announcements here. Do have a fair amount of news to cover and also a creative Indiegogo campaign to cover for tonight. So with announcements, if any of you guys, if you have Indiegogos, you have Kickstarter campaigns, I know those are big, and it might be difficult for some of you creators to kind of bounce around and do, make time for different live streams and whatnot. So I make the option available to you guys. If you have launched a campaign and you'd like me to cover it during a live stream, then all you have to do is just share a link with me. This also goes for if you are like publishers and you're looking for writers, other creators to get involved with projects, you have submission calls or anything like that, you can share that stuff with me. We're going to be covering, I'm going to be explaining how you can do that as well. Just a moment here. Okay, where are we at? So, first things first here. I make a cameo while I play a role in the newest episode of Doorway to Nightmare. Yes, Doorway to Nightmare. For those of you who are familiar with the channel, you know what this is all about. But for those of you who are new, Doorway to Nightmare is a full production audio drama series, web series that is it's available here on YouTube. It's also available on several other platforms as well, like podcasting platforms and stuff like that. But it's unlike, when I mean audio drama, it's unlike audio books in the sense that, think of it as you're listening to a play, you're listening to a performance. So there are, every episode of Doorway to Nightmare is its own standalone episode with fresh characters that are all played by real human beings who are doing voice acting. So I kind of had my kind of expand my creative horizons, and I reached out to the creators of the show, Winslow Swan and Crimson McKenzie. And I've been working with them for a little while now, and I've been having a blast. All the episodes are free to listen to here on YouTube, and they premiere on Fridays. So while the season, we're in season 6, they're on season 6 now. So new episodes premiere every Friday until the end of the season. So around it's 7 p.m. Eastern time. But they usually have them up by Thursday. They have it up, so you know when it's going to be scheduled. And we all kind of, like, some of us, like, we go and we meet up on Friday nights. They're episodes, as you can see, between 25 minutes to about a half hour, and and the chat is live, so we hang out, chit chat for a bit, and catch up with each other while the episode is playing and enjoy the work. And they do put a lot of effort into it. They're very passionate about this. That's one thing that I very much admire about this show. And this is a good episode too. This is definitely a standout. This is some standout work right here. This episode, I play a convict who escapes from prison, and he seeks refuge at a nearby carnival where there's a freak show that features a freak show. And there's layers to it. It's kind of has like some metaphors and stuff like that going on there, and it's fun. It's a fun episode. So you guys, I will be leaving a link to that in the description. Yeah, check that out. And if you go over there and you do check it out, maybe leave them a comment. Even if you want to say a little something about my performance or whatever, they're pretty cool over there. Let's see what we have up next here. All right, up next, I do have a campaign, an Indiegogo campaign to cover. So let's check this out. This is just launched not that long ago. It was just the other week. And this is Egg Beater. This is a vintage style horror slasher comic on Indiegogo. And this is by somebody who I've worked with. This is from the creator is Allie Lauderdale. And I've read some of her work live on the show before, and she is also a contributor to the Storyteller Society, a little side project that I'll be talking about here in a little bit. But let's check out this campaign. I'm always excited to cover these Indiegogos or Kickstarter campaigns. It's fun. I think it's fun. And I think that, I really like this crowdfunding, this idea of crowdfunding, because I think that's like where it really shows people who are willing to get involved in the indie scene. Like that for me, that really, I think that goes a long way in terms of saying, like, how not only how people feel about what's coming out of the mainstream, but also, it's in a positive sense. It just shows that there are people out there who are willing to support people who are willing to put in the effort to create something new, something that, you know, people haven't seen before, or maybe the mainstream is not supplying. Let me bring this up here. All right, let's check this out. First, there's the video, so we will check out the trailer first thing. How's that look? That look all right? Yes, very good. Very good. And this is actually the first time that I've watched this trailer.
A good baker isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. Eric Hatcher is serving up vengeance, one slice at a time. The Punisher mixes with Gordon Ramsay in this deliciously horrifying slasher comic. Eric Hatcher's family is slaughtered, his bakery ruined, his body and mind broken, but he still has his hunger for revenge. This is no joke.
All right, Egg Beater. I remember Allie said something. I don't remember what it was all about, but the whole sound. There's something about that. Looks like, all right, 63% of her flexible goal already reached. Still 55 days left. Plenty of time. Wow. 61 backers. That's huge. So 63% of her goal already reached. 55 days left. Let's check out some of these tiers, huh? Let's see. Signed book, 2 prints. In a signed book, 2 prints, 4 trading cards. Books, prints, cards, magnets. So it looks like she's definitely put in some work to create some promo swag, if you will. And we have some fun Baker's Dozen. We got the Baker's Dozen tier right here. 13 books. So we'll have to see what this is about. A lot of them that are already claimed too. The big ones that are already claimed. Yeah, great job so far. All right, here's the shortbread summary. Egg Beater is a black and white 24-page traditionally drawn graphic novel. Every backer receives an 8x10 full color print by Dean James. Egg Beater and full color print by Dean James, The Embrace, Egg Beater, and an 8x10 full color print of the original drawn by the inside artist Vinny Scatena, along with the book itself. The artist is Vinny Scatena. He's a first timer with a unique style, a love of comics and art, and full dedication. I like that Allie is giving a newbie a shot here on this one. Let's see. I'm Allie. I'm the writer. I have 1 independently published novella, Wild Man. I marketed, sold, and fulfilled over 200 physical copies successfully without a campaign. Several wonderful and talented artists have believed in this project enough to create amazing contributions. A little bit more about Egg Beater here. Thugs have butchered Eric's sickly wife and 2 children. They burned down his bakery and left him physically disfigured and insane. He's cooked up some custom-made weapons, a black belt in martial arts, huh? And is on the hunt for sweet revenge. Egg Beater is working his way up to the top tier of the local gang responsible for ruining his life, one brutal murder and pun at a time. Meet the demon baker of sweet treats. What we need and what you get. This comic is what you bake of it. You, the readers, are the loaf of the party. Quid pro dough? Every bit of funding goes into the book and campaign necessities. First and foremost, paying my artist, Vinny Scatena, and printing locally. Secondly, shipping materials and costs to ensure you receive everything in good shape. Thirdly, of course, the perks. So it definitely looks like Allie has her priorities in order here. A variety of perks, prints, trading cards, magnets, and more. If I don't reach my funding goal, you still get your book and chosen perks. Wow, that is generous. Got some gruesome looking art here. That is pretty badass. It does look like Vinny has some talent. Oh, never mind. That one's from this one's from James. This one's from James. Hopefully we'll get to see some of Vinny's work here shortly. The impact. When you support my crowdfunding, you are helping independent creators. Yeah, for sure. Preserving and continuing vintage horror and traditional art. Successfully completing this comic allows me to make more books faster. The plans I have for future comics and novels absolutely depend on me earning your trust and being genuine. Writing is all I have ever wanted to do, and I can't do it without you. Longevity is my goal. And this is just it, you guys. You know, I'm not, say what you will about this one particular project, but like I say in the title of this stream, sometimes it's about seeing the forest for the trees. And what I mean by that is the indie scene is filled with the indie scene. I would say that one aspect of the indie scene, or I say the dark side of the indie scene, is that sometimes you can come across bad faith actors. You can come across people who are here today, gone tomorrow, the fly by night, buy my book types. So you'll get to know, like when you hang around the indie scene long enough, you get to know the people who are what I call proactive in the scene. And I don't say in quotes as scare quotes as much as that's the key word. The key word being proactive here. And I think that, you know, what separates I think what you're going to see in the long run, what separates the wheat from the chaff as far as that goes, is the longevity, is the people who are willing to, you know, continue to try different projects and continue to want to produce and are consistent with what it is, not only with whatever it is that they're putting out, like with their projects and seeing them all the way through to the end, but also just continuing to just stick with the scene in general. In other words, not just showing up on the scene to take advantage of people, to get people who are passionate about independent media in general and just use people to open up their wallets, but actually genuinely care about the scene and are busy around the scene in and of itself. So that's definitely when you see people that are, in other words, the point that I'm getting at here is when you see people that have that passion, it's twofold. Not only do they have a passion for what they do, but they're also backing that passion up by being proactive in the scene, putting themselves out there, consistently showing up and showing out in order to try and help create or continue to support and create a place where other people, consumers who are just disgusted, annoyed, and just overall just done with the mainstream, and they want something alternative to go to and something alternative to support. They have something to back up. And I say, when you see people out here and they're doing stuff like that, they're passionate and they're proactive. Those are the people, those are the creators that you want to champion. You know, let me get back to this. All right. Whisks and challenges. It can't be all bun and games. Unfortunately, there is a lot of elbow grease that goes into independent publishing. Printing locally removes all the risks associated with shipping time and book accidents. Running an online store and fulfilling my novella myself gave me the real world drive and experience for fulfillment. Yeah, I've worked in fulfillment for quite a few years, and it's not an easy task. Now, say order filling is definitely a pain in the ass, but yeah, it's definitely, the more control that you have, the better as far as that goes, if you can pull it off. It's more of that art here. So here's some stretch goals. Stretch goals are fun. Stretch goals, 5,500, bookmark for everyone. And then we have a 6, and then it looks like there's 3 other ones planned that are to be announced as they get closer. So secret goals. Other ways you can help. Every cake is made of crumbs. Everything helps. Sharing is free. Absolutely. Sharing is free. You never know who will be interested. It pies to advertise. The number one way people decide to buy something is still via word of mouth. Tell people in real life. Blend a helping hand. Toss around the bite-size infographic below and use the Indiegogo share tools such as your referral code. Thank you. And then she has the graphic here. Nice little breakdown. All right. Good presentation, Allie. I have to say, good presentation on that. I will say, I don't know if you're aware of this, but apparently there is an egg shortage going on. So the timing couldn't be any more impeccable as far as that goes. No wonder the guy's going on a rampage, you know. But right, not so much a good time to become a baker, but perhaps it is a good time to become a comic book creator as far as that goes. So good job, Allie. All right, let's move it right along. Speaking of the mystery packs, like I told you guys before, I'm going to start covering these in the announcements whenever I have something new to talk about. So this week, hey, Herman. So this week I do have something new and recently just published on the blog. Brand new on the blog, we have Mystery Pack number 39, Reveals. The Pineys, Book 1, My Cousin the Piney. That's right. This is by Tony DiGirolamo. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, I actually covered this very book during one of my early live stream shows. So not only do I just cover these books like during, like I say, this is very much a discovery process for me as well. So I'm not just like doing this, just just willy-nilly, but it's also a discovery process for myself as well. So like I'm not only an indie author myself, but I'm also somebody who is very much involved in the indie scene, that I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is, and I actually care to like see what's going on in the indie scene. And I am reading a lot more indie books. At least I'm trying to read as many indie books as I can when I fit them into my schedule. And this is the most recent one. So not only do I read the book, I take the time and I want to process the book as well. So I process the material that I read, and then I write up a little editorial on it. Nothing too extensive, on average, it's about 1,000 words on the editorial, but I try to cover a range of topics and kind of go into it a little bit more in depth than, say, perhaps what you would read in a basic customer review. But yeah, The Pineys, book 1, My Cousin the Piney, is part of a series. This is Tony's trademark series. They're a series of like novellas, but there's also, well, I call them books because there's also like in one of his last entries in the series is kind of like a short story collection. So of like side stories and stuff like that. So from what I gather, worth checking out, but I will leave a link to the editorial in the description in post-production so you guys can read that and then decide for yourself. Let's see. And as far as periodicals go, I recently started revamping my newsletter, and I call it Live Free, Live Rich Weekly. And it's just on the homepage. So you just go to the website, livefreeliverich.com. Right on the homepage, you just share your email address and subscribe to that. Subscribe to the newsletter. I send out exactly one newsletter per week, hence the weekly periodical. And I share all the new releases, but that's also, I plan on the newsletter being the first point of reference whenever it's going to come, whenever I have any kind of special events or anything like that to talk about. And also it does provide in the newsletter some different ways that you can participate with ways that you can collaborate and participate with the brand itself. And then another way for you creators out there, authors, artists. This is like calling all authors, calling all artists, calling all people who are involved. Again, I'm going to use the word proactive in the indie scene. So this is like readers, reviewers, people who run book clubs, content creators. There's a whole spectrum of different roles and hats that you can wear in this indie scene. There is a place for virtually everyone in this scene. You don't have to be a writer. You don't have to be an author or an artist to get involved in this scene. So I have the Discord. I launched I have the Discord server, and now I have the Gilded server. So the choice is yours. They're both pretty much operate similar. The Gilded does have some added features that the Discord server does not have, but they're both just revolve around a place where you can go and you can network with other creators. I want to build up these servers in a way that it's free networking. It's an opportunity for you to just go in there. I have no expectations of you whatsoever in terms of engagement on these servers. You don't have to tell me your life story. You don't have to get personal with me. You don't have to check in daily and reach level 5 before you can even start sharing any of your own work. No, the links to these servers are always in the description down below. Click which one you wish to join. Bada boom, bada bing. You're in, and you can just start sharing. Because for me, it's really just about you guys sharing the links with me, and I consider that you giving me permission to mention your work during a live stream. Because for me, I want that. That's what I want. And not only is it just permission, but it also shows me that you're willing to stand behind your work. It's a very, I make it very easy. It's a very small ask on my end for you guys to just join the servers and voluntarily share your links with me. And I am more than willing. I am happy to mention your work during a future broadcast. You don't even have to show up in person in order for me to mention your work or feature your work during the live stream. However, if you guys are interested in being a visitor during a live broadcast, or if you are interested in being a guest co-host during a future broadcast, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me. My DMs are always open. You can slide into my DMs. You can email me. And if you have any interest whatsoever getting in on the program, I'm happy to have you, man. That's what this thing is all about. Because if we can't talk to each other, if we can't use this social media beast, if we can't tame this social media beast and build our own networks and socialize and feel comfortable enough socializing with each other online, then what the hell's the fucking point of this whole thing? You know what I mean? That's where I come from. That's what I'm thinking. And there's room. I feel like this isn't a competition. There's room for everybody. Because think about it, okay? Because I wear many hats, right? So I'm not only am I just a host of this live stream show, okay, but I'm a writer myself and author, published author. So like when I am ready to go back and start publishing some more works, and I want people to recognize my work, like I'm hoping that I can, through my acquaintances with all these different people that I've come to know through these various networks and stuff, that when it comes time for me to get ready to publish my own work, and I have some new releases come out, I can feel comfortable enough to reach out to various creators, content creators, and other people who host live streams and stuff and say, hey man, I got something new coming out. Can I book a show? Can I come on? Do you have room to fit me in here or there? And it's just boom, 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 boom. And I'm just fill up my whole schedule. When I'm ready to release something new, I want to have that peace of mind that I have a whole network of people that I can reach out to. And they are going to be more than willing to help me have my voice heard in this scene. And that's what I'm doing with this live stream as well, and making that same opportunity available to anybody who wants it. That's what I'm doing here. And I hope that's what people understand, take away from this. All right. Hey, what we got? D.A. Bell. Hey now. New article on Medium. Share the link. You know where to put it. Oh, an idea? Well, when you get it published, let me know. For sure. We got a lot to talk about. All right. Last but not least, speaking of opportunities, you guys know I gotta keep it real with my Storytellers Society. For those of you who have already contributed to the Storytellers Society, I want to give you another big thank you. I can't thank you guys enough. It helps my blog, but at the same time, I want to use it as, it's not just you helping my blog out, but also I use it as a means of collaboration. That's what I consider it. I consider it a means of collaborating with other writers specifically. So if you're an author, If you are an author and you're looking to expand your creative portfolio, or you are an aspiring author who has yet to have anything published on the market and you would just like to kind of build up your name a little bit, get involved in the scene, this might be an opportunity that you'll be interested in. What we're looking for is flash fiction, okay? Flash fiction, so that's fiction that is between, for this project, is fiction that is between 500 to 2,000 words max, okay? So just like a little short piece of fiction, you know? It can be any genre. Any genre. I am open to any genre, all right? So if you want to do romance, you can do romance. If you want to do horror, you can do horror, okay? Just about anything is acceptable. And if approved, just because you submit doesn't automatically mean that your work is going to be approved, but you are more than welcome to submit multiple times. Why would you want to submit multiple times? Well, each and every single time that one of your pieces of work are approved, it gets added to your room. So if you get a piece of work that's approved in the Storyteller Society, then you effectively book yourself a room at the Hotel del SS. And that's the platform that I've opened up through my website, livefreeliverich.com, where people can go in. It's one of the marquee tabs on the entertainment. So it's one of the feature presentations under Live Free, Live Rich Entertainment. So it's in conjunction with the network. And people can go over there and they can, if they're visiting, they can read your work free of charge through the website itself. And you can share a little bio with me. You can include links to your own website or your author page where you have your premium works for sale or anything like that. Okay. So I try to make it very easy for you guys to collaborate with me. And it's about networking. It's about building business to business or professional peer-to-peer relationships as far as that goes. Rainer, speaking of one of the members of the Storyteller Society, he's one of the, you were the second person to get involved in the project. And I'm very appreciative of that, Rainer. I'll say this, let me just say this much about that project. Also, this is the first phase. I'm still working. I'm continuing to put in the footwork. Okay. Every single time, like this is something that I talk about on a weekly basis. So for everybody who's contributed to the Storyteller Society and you've had your work approved, like this is something that you just submit the work. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that it doesn't have to be exclusive. This is a non-exclusive deal, completely voluntary, no contracts. So in other words, this could be a piece of flash fiction that you have published on your own blog or on another website somewhere, so long as you have the you retain the copyright and you have the right to give me permission to republish that work on my blog, then I'll be willing to do so if I approve the work. Hey, there she is. What's going on, Allie? I just finished covering your campaign not that long ago. Congratulations, by the way, on hitting over 60% of your goal with so much time left. There's no doubt in my mind that you're going to reach your goal. So congratulations on that. Let's see who we got, what else we got here. All right. Looks like we're ready to hop right into, I'm going to hop right into the next segment here. So this is, all right. So like I said before, I do have a featured video for tonight, and it does kind of dovetail with a previously pitched hot topic. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, let me just let me prepare this. Guys, feel free to chit chat amongst yourselves, get to know one another in the chat, you know, say hello. And if you guys have any announcements that you'd like to make, by all means, share your information and I'll bring it up. All right, so this is going to be somewhat of a long one, but this comes from someone that always, her videos are always interesting, and she always has very engaging insights to share on her videos, and she's very active in the indie scene with her. She's also an self-published author. And let me get into the hot topic here. What are you guys talking about in the chat? Hell yeah, man. Chilling like a villain. That's what you're going to talk about? Why is the industry unfair and doesn't want to take risks? Now, when you say that, are you talking about mainstream industry in general or specifically with publishing? It sounds like you're talking about mainstream industry in general. But that could be an interesting topic. I would totally cover that during stream. James Craig coming in with a little bit of spice tonight. He says the industry makes all of its money from books they purchased 30 years ago. That's why they don't care about new authors. I don't know if you guys are familiar. You guys familiar with free domain? Whenever there's literature, I forget the cutoff point. Is it 70 years? What is the cutoff point? 70 years? If a piece of work is over 70 years old and it's not owned by like an estate or something like that, it falls under free domain. Don't quote me on the years. Just the years are arbitrary. There's a specific time frame, like when there's works that enter into the free domain, and with Amazon, it used to be like a free for all as far as the free domain goes. Like it used to be a free for all. Like you could just basically snatch up works from the free domain, edit them, put them in, and then effectively just republish them, with a new book cover or something like that. But I think Amazon has kind of changed their policy on that a little bit. So you can't do that anymore. You can't just like scoop up works from free domain and try to make a buck off of dead authors. You actually the work has to be transformative in some way. So whether you have to not only just, in other words, you can't just slap a new cover and then say, it's like a Moby Dick or something like that. You slap a new Moby Dick cover on there. No, it has to be transformative in some way. Like say, for instance, adding illustrations, changing up the format or something like that of the book, editing it, stuff like that. But I know that there's some people out there in like Booktube, in YouTube in general, that are very active as far as doing something like that. They're editors. They just focus on editing. So you editors out there, like who look for work, like, and you want to get into, like, that could be a way of kind of maybe generating or building up some passive income streams through royalties. Like if you're not a writer or have no aspirations of being an author, you could look into that and check out the free domain and see if that's something that you might be able to do on the side. Not only to practice, not only just to, try to build up some residual income and get involved in publishing that way, but also kind of practice your editing skills as well. Like you could go through those old manuscripts And maybe you create, special editions. Like, I think in a way that would be fun to create like special editions of classics where you could actually add like your own footnotes and stuff like that. You could add a foreword or an introduction to the work, like, which would be like your own, coming at it with an introduction that offers your own perspective on the work or something like that. There's all kinds of different ways to get involved in this creative sphere and get involved in publishing without actually having to be a writer or an author yourself. What's Allie saying? Allie chimes in and says that and social media has changed things. Agents now want authors to have huge following. We've talked about that before. Yeah, we've touched upon that before. Almost like a prerequisite. So like social media has basically become like a double-edged sword in a way, in that way. Which, from a business standpoint, I get it, because a lot of these companies are feeling the pressure of our economic situation, our larger economic situation. They're not immune to that. And a lot of these companies, like the big five and stuff, they have real estate and they have all these like external expenses and stuff like that they need to maintain in their budget. Not to say that they aren't making plenty of money, but I don't know. I don't see their bottom line. And the whole landscape is changing. We're going to get into that anyways. That's one opinion. Sure. Internet famous. But it's changing, though. I think that the landscape is changing. I'm not a fan of the idea of the indie scene being a popularity contest, because then it kind of falls in, because then what happens then is you get Hollywood 2.0. Hollywood 2.0, meaning it just becomes a game of idolatry. And I do not subscribe to that bullshit. I don't give a shit how many followers you have. I don't give a shit how many subscribers you have. I am the type of person that I'm capable of separating the art from the artist. And I just want to appreciate works. That's what I want. And I want to give credit where credit is due as far as that goes. And then when it comes down to the individual, what matters most to me is when I see passion, when I see folks that are passionate, when I see folks that continue to show up and show out on a consistent basis and are proactive in the scene. It's not about kissing each other's ass. It's not about tit for tat or quid pro quo. It's just about recognizing real, and just, and championing people who can see the forest for the trees, get the big picture of what is going on here. There's definitely a paradigm shift. It's not mainstream, lamestream media gets to, call the shots anymore. We have the freedom, you guys. Like, the resources are available. Of course, I'm preaching to the choir here, but you guys, I think you guys understand what I'm getting at. Like I say, like, there was a point in time where I was like, okay, maybe I want to find an agent. I want to start querying sending out some query letters, find myself an agent. This was mostly when I in the early days when I was getting into writing fiction, watching shows like Californication or something like that, and like, I'm going to be the rock star author, and own the Ferrari and be a big shot, and I'm going to have an agent that's going to be a kick-ass agent, and he's going to fucking do all the footwork, and he's going to get me in the big leagues, but then once you start actually getting involved in the scene, you realize that's not what it's about whatsoever. Like, the indie scene, for me, what I've come to realize is very much about appreciating the arts. in every sense of the word. It's like a humanistic movement. All right, let's get into this. I'll be going back and forth with you guys' comments, but please continue your conversations in the chat. Carol, stop it in right at the beginning. Hey, brother. Speaking of indie authors. All right, let's get into this. Get into this video because it's gonna be a long one. So let me just do my bit real quick. So this is a hot topic for content creators. Yes, hot topic for content creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you guys, and then you guys turn around and produce your own content on said topic. And if you tag me in that video, or if you simply get in touch with me through any of my social media and share a link to that video with me, then I will feature your video during a future live stream. That's right. Or else you're always welcome to go back and check out any of my previously pitched topics on my playlist tab. And you can just go ahead, leave your comments down below, and you can really just kind of hash out your thoughts, and I will address your comments live on the air. So tonight, I do have a video. I was tagged in a video. Now, like I said, this comes from a creator that some of you might be familiar with, Ian Kirkpatrick, and her channel, Ian Kirkpaticake. And this was actually a video. It's just funny, the synchronicities here sometimes. Like when you're involved, sometimes creators, it's like there's these little synchronicities. And this was not a video. I will just preface this by saying this is not a video that she had planned for this particular topic. However, much of what she's talking about in this video just so happens to kind of fall under this topic, or the subjects kind of surrounding the topic. So like I say, each and every single one of these videos, you can watch them in any order. It doesn't matter because they're all standalone. We're just kind of embroidering these topics from various different viewpoints. And tonight, that topic is indie author folly. Yes. So indie author folly, this is a topic that I pitched where I want you guys to tell me, share the cringe, the things that make you cringe about the indie scene, whether it be the public relations of authors, or the public relations that you've observed in the scene, the business practices, whether it be shady business practice, what have you, that you've observed in the indie scene or in the indie market, and or the marketing strategies that you think might be a little bit sus within the indie scene. And now I will stress this again. This is not an open forum for you to shit talk other authors and creators out there. I very much want this to be focused on ideas and behaviors that you've observed. Okay, so we're talking about ideas, we're talking about behaviors. We're not talking about individuals, because that's lowbrow gossip. All right. I'm not into that lowbrow gossip stuff. So let's get into Ian's video here. Before I do, let me check in with you guys one more time. All right. I'll get to that one in a bit. Oh, hell yeah, JR. Let me know, man. I'm up for it. James Craig chimes in already. James Craig says, indie cringe? Quote, I don't have a marketing plan. I'm going to rely on word of mouth. Word of mouth is very important. Listen, say what you will about word of mouth, but I'll say, even though we have social media, don't let the social aspect fool you about the social media. social media, you still got to put in the footwork. People have to be talking about these projects. Without shows like this, what I've noticed before I started doing this, I'll just speak from my own experience here. Before I started doing this show, I got literally zero fucking engagement on my social medias. Zero. No one would like anything. No one commented anything. No one gave a shit. But as soon as I started getting involved, actively, proactively getting involved in the scene, now people are noticing me. You know, it's just like, well, I'll get back to that. I'll say more. I have more to say about that. But in terms of word of mouth, it's definitely just as important. Oh, that's the point that I was going to make. That's the point that I was going to make. With social media, don't get fooled with social media. Just because you post something on social media doesn't mean anyone's going to fucking see it. Okay? Because social media has the shadow banning. And I don't know if you're familiar, James, with the Twitter files. Have you heard of the Twitter files? Elon Musk, after he bought Twitter, he started putting out the Twitter files. And this is something that a lot of people in the alternative media had been talking about for years, mind you, now, suspiciously, you know, but without actual evidence. But now with the Twitter files, you can see there's actual evidence. So this is what they do behind the scenes with the social media companies. In terms of Twitter, in terms of shadow banning, all they have to do, you know, these latte frappe fucking sipping interns working at these social media companies, literally all they have to do to fuck over your profile is drag and drop. So there's all these different labels, right? At least with Twitter, this is how Twitter works. If they want to make it so your shit is throttled and it doesn't show up in hashtags or it doesn't, it only shows up to a very small fraction of your quote unquote followers, all they have to do is drag and drop. So they'll bring up your profile account and then they have all these different labels on the side. So say, for instance, I'll just use parody here. We'll say one of the labels is problematic. So if you're labeled as a problematic account, then what will happen is, say, for instance, you're replying to people's posts, right? And I'm pretty sure I'm under the impression that I fall under one of those problematic accounts, even though I haven't talking about anything. I haven't mentioned anything political with my social media account in fucking years. And another way that I know they're full of shit is because I intentionally follow zero accounts. The reason why I don't follow anyone on Twitter is because I know Twitter is a politically charged platform. What I do instead is I add people to lists. So instead of following you, I may have added you to one of my lists. And that's how I kind of keep tabs on people that I want to keep tabs on and follow what you're doing. But other than that, I don't follow people on Twitter. But even still, I think my account has been hit. The reason why I say that is because one way to know that for sure is when you look on tweets, okay? Here's a little tip. If you want to know there's some fuckery afoot, click on a tweet, and then if you especially if you have like a second account, it's easier to do with a second account. Like if you have a second account, click on a tweet that you know that you have replied to, okay? And one of the things is, if you do not see your reply in the immediate replies and you have to click show more replies, that's one stage right there. So if you have to click show more replies, that's one tell that there may be some fuckery afoot. Another tell is if you fall under offensive replies. Even if your reply literally has nothing offensive in it, that's another way to tell that you've been labeled by the company. And another way that these companies screw us over is they rig the friggin' game. Why? This is another reason why word of mouth is still important, because they rig the friggin' game and they make it so you have to promote your post or you have to boost your post, aka reach into that wallet, baby. reach into that wallet, show us some greenbacks, and maybe we'll show your post to a few more people. You know what I mean? It's pathetic. It's pathetic. It's sad. I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to Twitter Blue. I'm not going to shit on any of you if that's what you do. But the less money, I think the less money we give to these technocrats, the better. That's how we kind of coax them to stop with all this fuckery. And we just start building our own networks. We start connecting with each other, networking with each other. Stop looking at this as a competition and just start looking at this as we need to basically, like, each and every single one of us is a single node of a much broader spectrum of effort, and start synergizing with each other. Anyways, off that, let's get into the video. A lot to cover here.
I want to be a millionaire so freaking bad. Buy all the things I've never had. I want to be on the cover of old magazines. But I won't sell porn to kids. You know who you are. I'm looking at you.
Uh-oh.
You might be wondering what that intro song is even talking about. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, loin streamer, and today I wanted to talk about a couple of different marketing schemes or scams or styles or just things that I've seen going on, not just in the writing community, but in general, but also specifically with writing and publishing and the ALA. I'm calling you out, and individual writers, because there's so much scummy business going on that, hey, why not talk about it? Why not make more people angry? Why not get blacklisted by more people? Because I don't like these marketing practices. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do on this channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel and for some reason be associated with me, even vaguely, there are two different ways. One is through Lamai, which is the monthly writing contest, down in the comments or down in the description, where I give you a prompt. You respond with a short story or a segment or something, and then top 10, as long as whatever fits into the segment, get read the first Monday video of the month. The second way is if you are an indie author and you would like your work shared on this channel, submit to the Fresh Meat feature with your first chapter and your cover. They'll be read here, and hopefully it'll help bring more readers to know that your work exists and find new fans. Because, you know, I can't read everything. I can't enjoy everything. But I'm not necessarily your target audience, and your book deserves to be found by more people. So there's that. And then if you would like to support me in any way or read any of my books, they're available at all of your favorite retailers. And there are other ways to support. Like, there is some merch, not a whole lot, but there is some. And there is technically a subscribe star that I don't like bringing up, but it does exist. So with that said, let's get into the topic, and I will look forward to your thoughts on I have five or six different marketing ploys that I've seen. I think maybe six, that I want to bring up, and I would love to hear your opinions on them down in the comments below. Now, before I really get into the subject matter, I want to make it exponentially clear that these are criticisms of the practice of manipulative marketing. Not that any of these things can't be used in earnest, and many, if not all of them, are often done earnestly by individuals, but they've also been seen and taken by grifters and confidence men who just want to sell you stuff. So my criticism of them is at the practices of manipulative marketing itself, and at the bad people using the emotion and empathy and care and human weakness in order to sell more stuff. And if you are one of the confidence men that is doing these things, shame on you. That is who this is at. Not people who are earnestly responding to certain things or earnestly writing certain things or earnestly sharing certain experiences, but confidence men exploiting experiences or movements or a human emotion and experience it or human experience in order to sell things. That is who I am critiquing with what is about to come. So
I just right off the bat, let me just say something about that, Ian. I've already watched this. FYI, I've already watched the video, so I know where she's going with this. But just on that point specifically, the whole like coming in to just take advantage of people for the sake of selling something. There's definitely, I've kind of covered that before, where there's kind of like the bad faith businessmen, the bad faith. I would just call them bad faith businessmen. Okay. A businessman people can conduct business however they like, but this is what this topic is about, is kind of calling out, the cringy stuff. It's not to say that it's illegal or you're doing something that is against the law or you're not allowed to do, but it's just shitty behavior at the end of the day. And bad faith businessmen is what I think that Ian is getting at here, in what I call the people who just want to come into the indie scene. There's no gatekeepers. All right. First and foremost, I don't believe in gatekeepers. So if you want to go in here and you got a story you want to publish, by all means, you write that book and you publish that book. But I'll tell you right now, the indie scene, I've said it, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. It is a community-based scene. It's not like the mainstream. So it's more about who is involved, who is proactive, who is, and people recognize that in the grapevine. There is definitely a grapevine, and you see the faces that pop up time and time and time again, and you know who are the people who are the regulars. And it's very, very easy. If you are very proactive in the scene, it is very easy to spot the newbies in the scene. So the bad faith actors or the bad faith businessmen are the ones who may come onto the scene and they're just kind of there. They might dick ride on a movement or try to hijack some or hop on a bandwagon real quick so they can get some quick sales. You know what I mean? And they're the fly by night, what I call the fly by night, buy my book type of characters. You know what I mean? And, this isn't to discourage people from getting involved. There's room for everybody to get involved. But what I'm saying is, if your strategy is to be the fly by night, buy my book individual, and you're just coming in here to, just get some quick sales, and then you're here today and you're gone tomorrow, and you could give a fuck less about anything about anybody else who's involved in the scene, what they got going on. You've never picked up an indie book in your life, and you're just like, yeah, guys, support me, support what I got going on, but yet I am not involved in the scene whatsoever. It comes off at best, it comes off as a bit disingenuous, I have to say. And people aren't stupid. People kind of pick up on that. And it's not to say that maybe your book is good. Maybe you have created good works, but you are not your book. I've talked about that before with another creator, Thomas Lopez of The Right Mindset. We talk about the business side of things. You are not your book. People work with people. People relate to people. So it's like, who are you? And you show people who you are through your actions, not just necessarily through your works.
Keep that in mind. The first one has to do with the intro song, which is the banned books / canceled position, which the canceling position got much more popular in the last couple of years, especially with the political divide that's going on and the injection of politics into everything freaking non-political. Let's just make everything political and then sell everything on hatred and division. That's not what today's video is about. But banned books has been at the top of, has been so lucrative, I should say, that even Barnes & Noble have tables of banned books or shelves of banned books. And it's a ploy at this point. because this is kind of a follow-up from my video I did last week about The Wild by Kay Webster, where she created a book that was a daddy-daughter taboo romance, sent it out to, in her own words, uncritically, to whatever book bloggers she wanted, because she wanted it to have the best chance. People got mad at reading this book with the zero warning that it was a daddy-daughter romanticization. She got backlash. The book was removed, theoretically, from Amazon, and then she now has all of this merch on her website for I sell banned books. In recent years, it seems like banned books has become a low-key way of saying smut or erotica for children, because in a lot of places you will also see specifically sexual content that has been taken out of primary schools or grade schools where it doesn't need to be, and then it is called a banned book. I specifically have an article on this that I would like to walk you through that is from Poets and Writers. So let's go through this and talk about banned books. Libraries link to banned books. Schools and public libraries across the United States have banned books at a blasting pace in the last year amid heated political debates about whether young people should have access to certain narratives, particularly those exploring themes of queerness and race. Book banning has been most prevalent in places where conservative politics dominate. Pennsylvania, Texas, and Florida are among the states with the highest number of bans. Number one, let's stop here. And I am so irritated at the word queer and queerness being interspersedly used for anything that is actually pornographic. Because, now I'm not saying queerness itself is pornographic, but it's being used in these sentences to replace what is actually being taken out of the channel. Out of these places. So on this channel, I've also done a video book review, full review of the book called Jack of Hearts, which is one of these books that was in middle schools in the hands of 12-year-olds since 2017 at least. That is a guide on directions on how to sexualize yourself, sexualize others, telling children to use Grindr to hook up with older men. This is not about queerness. This is about a manual for children to have sex, and manual for children to have sex with adults, and a manual to dehumanize other people and see them.
Is that a mainstream book, Ian? Is that Legacy Media? That big publisher? I don't read that. I don't get into that weird shit. Like, it sounds like a book to me. That sounds like a book talk type of book. I don't get into TikTok, and I say that yes, it is, Allie. You've heard of it. That's fucking gross. That's fucking gross. Yeah, I don't get into that. It sounds like it's mainstream or it's a book talk book. Well, regardless, I know that book talk is a big thing, and I know that they like those edgy type of books. It's just very weird, but it's also that's kind of the dark side of things too. I was going to say if it's an indie book, then that's kind of the dark side of indie as well. It's still very much the Wild West, but in terms of how you advertise that your product too, I mean that can fall under. That could actually fall under false advertisement. I would imagine. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but I would fall. If you're intentionally misleading people in your blurbs or your product, the way you advertise your products, yeah, that's kind of fucked up. At the very least, I'm going to get into some of you guys' comments. I know you guys got a lot going on there. I just want to get through this video because it's long.
Only the same way that they would see a dildo. It is disgusting. And to just put this down to, this is just exploring themes of queerness. You're not a banned book, you're pornography in children's hands. And this is so dubious.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like, I'm not going to say a whole hell of a lot about it, but I'm saying like, it's just funny how like all these like pro LBGTQ, ABCDFG books, why does it have to revolve around sex? You know what I mean? No, I'm not. But then again, I'm not coming from a place where I have a whole hell of a lot of experience because I don't go searching out those books. Whereas with Ian, I will say one thing about Ian is that she is willing to pick up some of the more like problematic or controversial books and give them the time of day. I don't do that personally, I don't really care to give like, you know, that type of media the airtime. But you know, I guess it matters that if there are people who are willing to go, like, especially if it's getting a lot of praise, which it sounds like this one is getting.
And then you see stuff like the K. Webster, The Wild, where it's, oh, this is a banned book. No, it's pornographic incest that you're trying to sneak into people. And then in your own book, you call it an unconventional.
Oh yeah, and let me just show that right now, because that's very. So you're on committee for deciding if those books can be in my school district, and that's good that you're involved, like that, Allie. And I'll say that just because a book is not in a school library, that doesn't constitute it being a banned book. You know, like these people, like I know it's mostly on one side, like with the left, and talking about like, oh, it's a banned book. It's a banned book. No, it's just banned from like public school libraries, not public libraries. So you could still get the book if you went to a public library. You just cannot read. You just cannot find what Ian is saying. You just can't find fucking porn in school libraries. And I'm all for that. Fuck that. That's sicko shit. You know what I mean? You're not putting that in schools. You know, if you argue in favor of that stuff being in schools, you are a sicko. I hate to break it to you, but that's the fact of the matter. You're a fucking weirdo and you're a sicko. Point blank, period.
But beautiful love story. Can we just be honest here about what we're looking at? Banned books has become a scam from when it used to be in classics that were offensive.
But the point I was making is you're not a banned book. that doesn't mean you're a banned book. Banned book would be like a banned what I consider banned book. An actual banned book means distributors refuse to market your product. So like if you are banned from Amazon, in other words, you can't publish on Amazon, or a specific work has been removed from Amazon, then that means technically you're banned from Amazon. That means you're not able to monetize that piece of work, at least with that one particular distributor. There's plenty of other distributors out there that may be more willing to take on, you know, the more risque type of works out there. But in terms of bans, yeah, just because your work is not found, your porn is not found in a public school library, that doesn't mean it's banned. It's more often than not, you're going to be able to just go to any bookstore, find it on the shelf, or go to your public library, and you could probably find it there.
And we're getting kicked out for the offensiveness. Now people see, oh, they don't want that book in their curriculum. Oh, that district voted to not have that sexual book in their library. Banned book. The book still exists. Stop selling pornography as banned books. They're not. If you have more, I will do an entire collection of videos on banned books. If you want to send me more of these books that are being removed from school districts, so that I can walk you through exactly what is in them, because that is what happened with Jack of Hearts. So if you really want to one by one any of these books to know exactly what is in them, send them my way, and I will go through them the way that I go through books to present them to you, so you don't have to suffer through them, because there's a lot of suffering involved. Anyway, continuing down, but libraries everywhere are fighting back. This past April, Brooklyn Public Library launched Books Unbanned, which gives teens and young adults free library cards that allow them to borrow from its online collection of more than 500,000 ebooks and audiobooks, including frequently banned titles such as Mia Kobabe's memoir, Genderqueer Pornography, and All Boys Aren't Blue, a memoir manifesto. I would not trust anything that says manifesto to hand it to children. But, you know, whatever. That's just me. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. News of the program, open to readers 13 to 21 years old, went viral after being picked up by national media outlets and shared on social media. More than 5,500 new borrowers have signed up across the United States and Puerto Rico, with the largest number coming from Florida and Texas. Prospective borrowers need to email the library for a card, and once it is issued, they can access titles on their phones, tablets, and computers through e-reading and audiobook apps like Libby and Simply E. I don't know. I feel like adults specifically setting up a library for children to check out pornography is kind of sketchy, but you let me know what you think. The idea was directly help out the young people who are being disproportionately impacted by adults pulling books off the shelves of their schools and public libraries. I don't think that there is any reason why there should be sexual books, like specifically titillating sexual books or how-to sexual books that are like Jack of Hearts. There's no reason that should be in a public school. And as a taxpayer, that is my decision to make. That is my money that goes into those taxes. I mean, technically not in the United States, or not in New York, but a public school is using my tax money for that thing. And there is no reason that a school needs to have sexually explicit books like Jack of Hearts in them. But hey, what do I know? Nick Higgins, the BPL's chief librarian, says, "We are trying to find ways to reach into communities where support doesn't exist." That also sounds like poaching and predatory behavior. I'm just saying, in this case, it's predatory. Books Unbanned is one of the largest scale attempts at addressing reading restrictions, says Higgins. The New York Public Library had a similar program last spring that granted instant access to readers across the country by a simple e-reader app to 4 commonly challenged books. Other programs against book banning from libraries, universities, and bookstores have focused on educational events, author talks, and book giveaways. They concentrate on promoting frequently challenged or banned book titles, which Books Unbanned emphasized access to on an entire electronic library collection. Based on just the way that this is speaking, it's no different than Kay Webster saying that her book was banned and now she has banned books. This could literally be talking about The Wild, because the entire thing around The Wild is, I wrote a banned book. It's so terrible. It is so taboo. It got this backlash. It is a banned book. Support me for being banned. And after having watched Webster's own video on the event, she talks about having received emails from people that don't read her genre but wanted to support her because they don't believe in book banning or censorship. So now you're tricking people into supporting and possibly reading incest porn by calling it a banned book. And then it falls into this same category here where they're like, oh, it's just exploring sexuality. Oh, okay, I guess fucking your daughter is also just counted in that, right? New York, is that what I'm supposed to believe? That I'm just supposed to uncritically, emotionally respond to banned books like, oh, that's terrible.
Ian is bringing the spice this year. It's unlocking the spice.
We have to protect the sanctity of free speech. Having a book in a library and handing pornography to children is not free speech.
I might skip a little bit of this just
book
because
bans are prevalent. However, the stakes.
I might skip a little bit of this video just because I know that we've pretty much already covered the whole book banning thing, using it as a ploy to basically just get porn into schools. But I want to touch on some of the other points that she was making in this video.
Library. There was also a Stephen King book. Why did that specific Stephen King book need to be in a public library? I was talking to one of my friends who is a Stephen King fan, and she was like, oh yeah, that would be appropriate for middle graders. This is all that it is. It's not a banned book because curriculum changes. Get over yourself. And the fact that this is a ploy and it's using emotion to trigger people to purchase books is disgusting. That's probably one of the things that you'll see continually throughout all of these marketing ploys, which is why they are cheap and I hate them. Number 2 marketing ploy is the woke and the anti-woke garbage. Again, we're turning it into teams. We're turning it into an identity. You've had the rise of labeling things as woke.
So before you even go on with that, Ian, let me just say this much. So I think that there is definitely material out there, mostly from the mainstream, that you could certainly that could certainly fall under the umbrella of being labeled as woke content. But in terms of anti-woke, I've yet to hear any examples of what would constitute anti-woke content. I just know that I know for a fact that there are like sects as in SECTS of the underground scene where there's like effectively like subcultures and stuff like that, where it's like there's it may fall under the umbrella of like movements and stuff like that, where it's just people, creators that are just sick of woke content, period. Like, and they're very passionate about it, very willing to voice their opinions about how much they think woke content, what they label as woke content, to be trash fiction, trash product, garbage, and that kind of fuels the fire of inspiration for them to turn around and create their own works, create a market. And now I do definitely see that there is certainly that is becoming a market in it and of itself. In other words, what you're calling the anti-woke content, it's not that the books themselves or the products themselves, they don't call them anti-woke. They just call them, it is what it is. Like, they have stories that they are stories that just simply do not include what they label to be woke content. It's not necessarily anti-woke. I've yet to see any creator call their work anti-woke. I'm not saying that there may be someone out there that does. I don't know. I just haven't seen anybody say that yet about their own work, specifically saying my work is anti-woke. Like, what does that even mean? But I've had a lot of people that have stories that are saying that they're marketing their stories out there and advertising them as not having content that is quote unquote woke. So, I mean, I guess that's a standpoint. In terms of marketing, in terms of teams or anything like that, like you're the woke team, you're the SJW team, or you're the quote unquote anti-woke team. I don't know. There's definitely some politics at play. And I'll touch on that as you get into this a little bit deeper.
Or as what was before woke? I don't even remember. Social justice warrior was before woke.
Yeah.
And so then I would say you're either with us or you're against us. And then it's in all of the writing groups as well, because
I'll say this much. In terms of you're either with us or against us, I would say, let's just go ahead and just address the elephant in the room. Let's say that, for instance, all the woke labeled content is on the left, and all the what you're calling anti-woke content is on the right. All right, so let's just say it like that and just draw the line right down the middle. I'll say this much. I think that in terms of the anti-woke crowd, I think that I've seen more creators from the anti-woke crowd are more open and accepting of a whole spectrum of different projects, of different creators. As long as you're not like, you're coming across as like some sort of outright, you're not just trying to outright sell porn to kids, or you don't come across as some weirdo pervert, friggin' groomer type. Like, they're more or less open to, there's creators in that sphere that are open to talking about, raising awareness for, and addressing a whole, array of projects. And I don't subscribe to any clique. I don't subscribe to any cliques or clubs or movements. I'm very much indie through and through. I'm my own individual. I stand on my own 2 feet. But I would say when it comes to hospitality, I have definitely received more hospitality, because I consider myself a little bit more on, my work is a little bit more darker, a little bit more, dare I say, edgy. But I've received more hospitality from the folks on the anti-woke side than I have from the woke side. I've had plenty of people that I have barely even exchanged 2 words with, or have exchanged no words with, just outright block me preemptively on social media that would have came from traditionally what would be considered labeled woke. Even though I have given some of those same folks a fair shake on my own platform. In other words, talking about their works, mentioning their works, even though they weren't necessarily books or projects that I myself would have been interested in, because that's not what this is about. For me, I can see the forest for the trees in that regard. This is not a political thing for me. A cultural thing, sure. But we can talk about ideology and culture another time.
People are like, you need to be on our team or not. And then it's in all of the marketing. And then you've got all the opiners and the commentators on the media saying whether something is woke or not, so that they can align you with themselves and against that thing, because it's so much easier to create a team dynamic and a mean-spiritedness to it if you say them versus us. And so now, in the last couple of years,
but also you have to think about it from the standpoint of sometimes that friction is good. Sometimes it's good to have, it's good for business. Sometimes it's I can say from a business standpoint, it's good for business for there to be a little bit of friction. It can spice things up. Let's say that much.
Years, you've also got the rise.
But you got to be willing to play fair. And I think that there's a way to go about, navigating that friction within the marketplace and still play fair with everybody. You know what I mean? And not get dirty. Don't get dog eat dog about it, or be, cutthroat about things.
Of the anti-woke content, where people go, buy my thing because it's not woke, it's anti-woke, and it's just as cringe as going, look at the woke stuff. I have picked up a handful of these books that would be considered the anti-woke in the that are sold as it. It's not a problem with the content itself being whatever the content is, but it's stuff that's marketed as, look at this woke book versus look at this anti-woke book. They do the same tropes of leaning really hard into this politically shallow garbage that it doesn't tell a good story. It all leans into propaganda one way or another. The anti-woke is just as cringe as the woke, and the anti-woke is also a marketing scheme by people who want to make money because you feel dejected. They don't really care about the story, at least from the stuff that I've picked up. They don't understand how to do storytelling. They just inject their own political bias into them because they see that's what the other side is doing, and they're like, I can do that too. And then it's a shit story. I'm tired of it. So I don't trust anything that markets itself as woke or anti-woke, because they're the same thing.
I get where you're coming from as far as that goes. And in terms, now say what you want about the stories. I mean, you're open to your own opinions and interpretations of the stories that you read. That's very much, I encourage people to share their criticism online, and there's a space for that. There's a space for critics in this whole creative sphere. And I want more people to read these books. That we need people out here reading these books. I can only read so many independent authors. My TBR list is growing faster than I can possibly get through the amount of books that I have on there. And that's fine. I'm just going to keep adding to the list. And, but I'm more of a mood reader, and I'm not, reading, double-digit books on a monthly basis. But when I do read a book, I'll take the time to process the work, and I'll leave a review or I'll write an editorial on that work. And I encourage other people to do that too. So if you just want to focus on reading, oh yeah, you could probably build an entire YouTube channel. You could probably build an entire brand just around critiquing indie works if you wanted to get in on this game right now. But yeah, people should share their opinions and critiques. The point that I was going to make was the whole thing about it coming off as being the same thing, what Ian's saying here. I've noticed that too. It's the same. It's basically the opposite side of the same coin sometimes. And what I understand and what I've talked about before is the rage bait stuff. And that fucking gets under my skin. I've gotten to the point where like I couldn't care less about the rage bait anymore. I want to focus on productivity. I want to focus on creativity. I want to focus my attention, I want to pay attention to people who are creating things that I care about, that I want to talk about, or people or boost up people who are being proactive. That's what I care about. Fuck whatever side you want to take, whether you're woke, whether you're anti-woke in this context, whether you're left, whether you're right, like, why not just focus on the works themselves? Because I feel like the rage bait stuff, it just gets old after a while, because I've seen people on the right do that too. People on the right, where my example was, look what they're doing to the Little Mermaid, and they get all up in arms. That's the same type of crap that the left does when they say, oh, look, we got Nazi dog whistles here. It's white supremacists. They do the same. That's what I think you mean by it's like it's the same shit, just different side of the coin. And I agree as far as that goes. Maybe we spend less time with the rage bait and the bullshit and giving airtime to the bullshit and more airtime and pay more attention to the people that care. Now, I cannot help but notice, Ian, I have to call you out a little bit on that as far as that goes, because you say that, but then every time I turn around, you are picking up one of these, books that are in the coming from one of these clout chasers, one of these, what I would call these clout chaser books, the books that show up on the book talk and the TikToks and all that stuff, like, for instance, like the Light Larks and that type of stuff, but, I do know that you give a lot of other authors the time of day as well. And you go by kind of a request system as far as that goes. And I don't know all the other authors, indie authors that you're reading behind the scenes that you don't talk about. But I'd say, yeah, whatever you pay attention to, be prepared to get more of as far as that goes. If you're paying attention to the rage bait, be prepared to get more rage bait.
Marketing scam number 3. Opiners that say everybody else's stuff sucks, but mine doesn't. Buy mine instead. Now, there's a difference between being critical of something, legitimately having your whatever it is that you want, and specifically being a destructive viewer. So you could say, look, I am your savior. Everybody else sucks but me. Buy my thing. Look, I might write books, and I'm also a reader who talks about the books that I read and will tell you what I didn't like about them if I don't like something about them. But I always recommend that you, purchase the books that I talk about if you're interested in knowing more about them, or if you want to talk to me about them, because I love talking to people about books. I don't care if I hated the book. I just like to get other people's experiences. And I also assume that you will hate my book if you read them. So I'm not saying I can fix anything. That's also why I run the fresh meat feature, because I know that I can't satisfy everyone, and I am probably likely to satisfy the least number of people with the way that I write. So I am not that guy, but I have seen that guy, Daily Wire. I'm talking about you, that will do the video lying to you that Avatar, The Way of the Water, is a racist flop, but it is one of the highest grossing movies of all time. That is a straight up lie. And then you look at how they also offer movies. So Avatar, Avatar, Way of the Water is a direct competition. They can't be honest because they are so ideologically driven and they are so corporate that they are looking at that movie and they're not looking at it as a peer. They're looking at it as competition. And so when you do, well, everybody else is shit but me, marketing ploy. Especially when you get people emotionally invested in you, because it's very much like being in love with somebody where you got the rose-colored glasses on. And so,
well, I think that's like almost, I was talking about this with someone on someone else's channel, and that kind of falls under the category of like appeal to authority too. It's almost like somebody is trying to position them. When people, it is a little bit cringe, I have to say. I have nothing against people who want to share their knowledge, like writing knowledge, knowledge in the industry, with publishing in general. even if people want to share like advice and writing tips and stuff like that. But when people like kind of like, it is a little bit cringe when like people, especially if you're like new on the scene and you just like start like positioning yourself as like an authority figure of writing in general, and like everybody else is fucking wrong except for you, and you're the type of person like you're not willing to hear different points of view as far as that goes, like you're just trying to position yourself as the authority figure, then yeah, that's totally cringe. That is cringe. D.A. Bell, I think the woke argument boils down to, I don't like your politics, keep them out of my stories. Like the woke anti-woke argument. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what Ian was addressing, like what labels a book if they're marketing it as anti-woke. But really, I haven't seen anyone in terms of examples. I haven't seen anyone market their book as being deliberately anti-woke. An alternative, perhaps, or say that their book excludes that woke type of content. So yeah, I've definitely seen that. But then you get into the realm of argument in terms of what constitutes being woke. What is considered woke content, and what is considered woke content as far as that goes. We got Herman here. Hey, Herman. Just in time for some hot topic. Herman chimes in and says, this is the reason why I don't publicly read and review the books of other authors. Now, that is something that I'm going to get into on this same hot topic, but on another stream, because I'm running low on time here. I want to kind of wrap this up. But he says, if you give critical reviews, it leaves you open to conflict of interest accusations. Yeah. I have heard of that. And say, for instance, like if you, I think Ian covers that in the video, so we'll continue it.
So you usually see the best only in that person, or the things that maybe used to annoy you don't annoy you anymore. And that same thing happens when you build an emotional response to a company or a corporation or an individual. And I think that it is scummy to do that and then trick people into buying stuff because they care about you and lying to them. Shit talking things. And there's a difference between just not liking something and critiquing things for not liking it, because I do that all the time, and being completely dishonest, like saying Avatar is a financial failure when it's clearly not, and then attaching, political buzzwords. But then again, Daily Wire is a political arm, it's a political propaganda machine, and they want to force their ideology on you the same way that they hate what Disney does. So it's all just a scam by an ideologically driven corporation. At least that's what I've observed in my humble plebeian opinion. But you can't see what the sign says, but the sign says it all. The next thing is trope marketing, which has become a very, very, marketing tropes has always been a fairly big thing, but it has become excessively more popular in the last couple of years. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, that's what sold Lightlark and got it super popular on TikTok, which then got its movie deal partially. And trope marketing can also end up writing entire books where characters literally just go from place to place, doing thing to thing, as long as it falls within a trope, where then everything else feels like it just revolves around hitting these trope scenes. I think not only did Lightlark do it, the Pawn and the Puppet did it, and it's all about getting those specific tropes and moments and scenes that do not necessarily connect. And as long as you can say that, but I unfortunately also see so many books that just market the trope, and it works for a reason, to get people interested in the quick, but also people lie about what is in those books by using popular tropes. And I think it's unfortunate that so much dishonest marketing, it not only happens, but is so common, especially it's not even just corporations. It's individuals see other people doing it and they're like, I'm going to do that too. And then it's a continuation of lying. Then there is pity marketing.
Pity marketing. The only thing I have to say on the trope thing, for one, you kind of like you tapered off at the end a little bit and kind of circled back to misadvertising your work. Not false advertisement, no, obviously not. But people using the tropes as a way of marketing their book, I think that's one part where you and I kind of disagree. And I'm willing to agree to disagree as far as that goes. But I actually think that right to market has a place in the scene. I don't personally have a problem with writers who want to write to market, because I think the way that I see it is it keeps a particular genre or a trope in this instance alive. So in other words, when an actual artist comes along and wants to create a work of fiction that could actually be considered art, and isn't just based on statistics and demographics and marketing schemes, if you will, or should I say, aside from schemes, marketing data. In other words, I'm going to read what's really popular, the chick who gets used by the billionaire guy, the mysterious billionaire guy. That's popular. So I'm going to just write a generic friggin' 50 Shades of Grey. And then you got 50, middle-aged broads writing their version of 50 Shades of Grey. Effectively just 50 Shades of Grey fan fiction, but they're capitalizing upon that popular trope. And I get that. That I understand that's kind of lowbrow in the grand scheme of things, but it keeps it does keep the market interested to a certain degree, because there's like people there's clearly people out there that want a steady flow of content that involves those type of tropes. So then when an actual artist comes along and writes some literature that involves those, that may include that type of trope, well, they have people to market to. They actually have people that would be interested, and in other words, they don't have to start from scratch. In other words, to try and persuade people to persuade a market to give that book a chance, because the way that they could market the book is that they have that particular trope included in the book. See what I'm saying? Like in other words, there's already like a built-in market available for that type of work. So that's why I say that there's space for right to market type of authors, and I don't particularly see right to market as folly or blunder in it and of itself. Is it lowbrow? Sure, because effectively what you're doing is you're basically telling people you're writing for money at that point. It's just strictly business. It's not art. It's just strictly business. Like you are intentionally trying to tap into a market for the sake of making money, not that your book has a message or substance, or it's a work of art and it's something emotionally significant in some shape, fashion, or form. No, you're not marketing as that. You're just saying, hey, there's a billionaire playboy guy and he abuses this broad.
Which is the fifth thing that I will talk about. And I'm going to sound like a complete psychopath or completely insensitive, but that's just going to happen. I hate it when it's one thing to be like discussing, oh, this was a critical response that my book received, and I'm going to talk about it, blah, blah, blah. It's another thing to, I feel like, go on your social media account and cry that you got a critical response and then be posting about it to get more sales. And I see it a lot. I can tell when I go onto your profile, when I see your crying post come up, and there are hundreds of responses to it and a bunch of people in the comments saying they went and purchased your book. as they comforted you, and all of your other posts have like 3 posts on them. I hate pleas for pity. I hate saying pity me and purchase my thing. I feel like I'm having a bad day. Somebody help me buy my stuff. Again, we're appealing to emotion. We're appealing to people's goodwill. We're appealing to people's.
It's uncouth. Just say it. It's uncouth. But that's social media for you. There's gonna be Fruit Loops and Looney Tunes on social media. Etiquette, is there's not really a one righteous way of doing things. And there's some people, they have absolutely no shame when it comes to social media. And I've seen that too, but then again, I don't necessarily think it's bad. It's bad per se. Is it uncouth? Yeah. Depending on how you approach it though, because I have seen people that will use the negative reviews as kind of as leverage. Like they can leverage those negative reviews. So for instance, if your work gets like 1-star reviews or something like that, and it's just from some like ninny, it's just talking shit, you could use that to your advantage. And you could have like, say, you could do like content. You could make like a video on your YouTube or something, like say reading my 1-star reviews, and kind of put yourself in the hot seat. I've seen authors do that before, and it makes for some quality entertainment. Not to say that you're judging people per se for just having an opinion, but you're just kind of like, say, putting yourself in the hot seat and seeing what people have to say, and just let it fucking speak for itself as far as that goes. I think that that's a very tactful way of going about addressing negative reviews if you're an author out there. Because I know there is another thing that I want to get into with this topic, and that's authors getting involved in reader spaces, because I know that that's also quite a spicy subject as it pertains to this hot topic.
Compassion and manipulating them to sell product. I understand that getting a critical review is hard. It does suck, and it can be very affecting on our mental state. But there's also something really scummy to me about receiving what is a typical part of being a published author, and then using that sadness, that personal angst, to sell more stuff and to get other people's pity. I think it's gross, but let me know what you think. Another one in recent years that I've always had a problem with is the own voice self-report, or using personal demographics in order to boost something as a sales pitch. Now, I understand personally injecting yourself into stories. Generally, most of the time, most authors have some level of personal experience or personal identity injected into the story. However, I don't and never have agreed with making people's personal identities a marketing gimmick. And I think specifically own voice has become very toxic, because now there's this assumption that if you don't mark something as own voice, if you include it in your book, then you are taking advantage, you are pretending something. And then this is starting to try to force authors and the incentive to out people of their personal background or traumas or whatever in order to sell a book or to appease somebody that, hey, I went through this, so you should give me extra attention. But nobody should be forced to out their personal identity, their medical history, their physical history, their mental state, their neurological disorders, any of that, in order to get a book looked at, in order to not be gang attacked online because they put somebody with arthritis in their book. But this keeps happening. So you either market it as own voice so that you can go, hey, look at me, I'm autistic, so you should purchase my book. Or you're getting attacked and you go, hey, I wrote this, and it includes somebody dealing with chronic pain, and then they attack you because you don't experience chronic pain. So now you have to say, hey, yeah, I did. Or another past example is somebody who included like pedophilia or sexual assault and was so ganged up on that she had to express that was inspired by experiences and trauma that she had, and it was a coping mechanism. So there's all of this garbage around lifting people up by outing themselves, saying you only deserve this job or you only deserve attention if you sell out your personal information. And then other people thinking that they have a right to your personal information if you put stuff in a story. And the answer is no. It's so disgusting to use personal details and force. If you want to out yourself or
yeah. So that kind of goes into another topic with like representation and stuff like that. Like people, the whole like logical fallacy that like you need to have some sort of like if you don't represent whatever characters that you have in your story, then you are misrepresenting characters in some shape, fashion, or form. And I just don't believe in that when we're talking about in the context of fiction. And also the whole idea of people ganging up on authors due to issues with representation or something like that. Like I say, you're entitled to your opinions and your own interpretations as critics. And you can write till you're blue in the face, talk all about it online, and have those reader discussions. But just like how readers do not like when authors get involved in reader spaces, readers should not be fucking hounding authors and trying to drag authors' names through the mud because of the content within their works of fiction. And furthermore, let me just check out the comment I left on Ian's video here. So right here, I left a comment where I had said, let me make sure it's on screen. So I left a comment on Ian's video right at that timestamp. And I said, I stand behind the notion that authors do not owe their readers any explanation for the content within their stories. That is up to the critics to decipher and offer interpretations within their reviews/editorials, which opens up a dialogue for individuals to become engaged in. I think some people forget that literature is not just a quote-unquote escape, but also an art form that has cultural significance within the zeitgeist. In my opinion, the difference between art and propaganda is that one is open to interpretation, while the other simply tells you what to think. Sometimes intent can be difficult to decipher because sometimes art can be quite provocative for reasons unbeknownst to those who do not have the eyes to see or the ears to hear, aka the profane. But really what I'm just saying there is that the culture right now, and I feel like, as we continue to have these type of conversations, we're course correcting that. It's almost like it helps people. I think it's going to help people to see that there aren't a bunch of wackos out there that fly off the handle and get triggered every time they read something in a work of literature that is fiction or see something in a movie that is fiction and get all up in arms about it and say, oh my gosh, it's as if there's like a revolution going on and there's blood in the streets, as if this is like warfare, that to me, I think going back on what you were saying, Ian, with the woke, anti-woke thing, if I have to hear my culture war one more time, as far as that goes, it's fucking cringe, dude. That shit is cringe. Like, just create your art, dude. Create your fucking art. Say what you have to say in your artwork. I'm all for people speaking their mind, expressing themselves however they want to, and create the art that they want to create. Just be genuine about it, Is it something that you would want to read? Is it something that you would want to watch, you know, as a consumer? Or are you literally just trying to ham fist propaganda down people's throats? You know, serious question. And that's all, and that it's a rhetorical question that only you as the individual can answer. But like I say, I stand by the fact that authors don't have to explain themselves. Once my work is published, that's it. It's out of my hands at that point. You guys figure it out. Check it out. It's right there. Spend them. My standpoint is, and this, I do the same thing. I do the same thing when I reach into my wallet and put my fucking money where my mouth is. I reach into my wallet and I buy something that is on the open market. That is, just because it's been published by an indie doesn't mean you're fucking immune from criticism. Okay. I don't give a shit if you're self-published, indie label, small press, you're represented or not represented, or you represent yourself. If you put something out on the open market that people need to reach into their wallet and spend their own hard-earned money to purchase, you have to be ready to receive the criticism. You are a public figure at that point. So I don't think that people deserve to be mobbed. I don't think that readers should be ganging up on authors personally and trying to stalk them and look into their personal lives. That shit's weird. Trust me. And I have shit to say about that too, because there are some readers and content creators out there that ain't get into that weird shit. Like they try to dig into authors' personal lives, and that shit's fucking sus. I'll say that right now. But that's for another time. But yeah, it's, as far as the work goes, say whatever you want about the work, because people, that's where I come from with my reviews. You're not going to tell me what I can and cannot fucking say in my editorials. I'll get raw and uncut is all I want in my editorials. I'll swear up a storm. I'll say whatever I want. Why? Because I'm publishing it through my own platform and I'm speaking my own mind, and I reached into my own wallet and bought your fucking published work with my own money. So I'll say whatever the hell I want, because that's freedom of speech. And that's what I believe everybody has the right to do. So on the flip side of that, the author does not owe the reader any explanation. If a critic is way off base, if a critic is going way off base and they completely miss the point of the work, that's on them. The author doesn't need to correct them. The author doesn't need to explain themselves to people, to idiots that didn't fucking get it. They missed the fucking point. They don't need to do that. Those are conversations that the readers need to have with each other. It's an engaging thing. That's what I mean by it's cultural in that way. If every fucking author and artist came out here and they explained exactly what they fucking meant, like, imagine that. You put in all that time and effort to create a work of art, to create a book or a piece of literature that you consider a work of art, and you put it out there, you publish it for public viewing, and then you turn around and create a fucking video where you go through and break down your own friggin' work beat by beat by beat and explain exactly what you meant and your intentions behind each and every single plot point and beat. What's the fucking point of reading your work? Why should anyone care to pick up that work at that point? You are the author of the work, the authority on the work. So that, to me, I feel like that ruins the experience at that point. Like, that's all part of the fun. Being the reader is deciphering what you thought the author meant by this, that, or the other. That's part of the fun of reading a piece of work, analyzing a piece of work, breaking down a piece of work. And as soon as a author, or in this case, if we want to get metaphorically speaking, as soon as the magician reveals their trick, well, it's not fucking fascinating anymore. You know what I mean? It's not even it's not interesting anymore. So I would almost encourage authors to just zip your lip when it comes to your own work. I know that authors get excited about their own works. They're passionate about their work. I like to see it. But if you want people to care about your work and you want people to read your work, I can only speak for myself. I like going into a book blind, and I want to figure it out for myself.
Or share any of your personal information, that's one thing. But to make it a requirement in the industry in publishing and just writing characters, or else you get attacked, or else you don't deserve a chance, is frankly disgusting. And it's manipulative. The last one, because I came up with the seventh one while recording this video, the seventh marketing scam is uncritical buddies selling things. I'm sure that we can all think of a couple of people who maybe have public opinions. I'm just thinking in the publishing industry where sometimes agents ask other agents or their own clients, hey, would you write a blurb to go on this book? You don't have to read it, but your name being on the book saying this is amazing is going to sell more things. And that's common in both indie publishing and traditional publishing, where peers will not read the book. The book may not even be their genre. The more successful ones usually will be within the genre because that's more believable, but they won't. But they'll only say those positive things in order to sell more books, or they will boost other people's books because it's just scratching each other on the back. It's just boosting each other up uncritically. And it's really toxic, especially in the indie community, because there are so many people that do not believe in even ever leaving critical reviews. And I know that this is a scary thing too, because you say that and you express it, and then people will get mad at you and possibly leave bad reviews on you because you're even saying anything at all. And you're like, oh, well, you would believe in this? Well, then how are you going to like it when you get dumped on? And reviews are so misused, and quotes are so misused for sales. And it's a whole bunch of selling things, becoming friends with other people in order to look.
That's why I say we've already kind of addressed this point already, but one thing I'll just add is that's why I like encourage people, even if you're a reader, like don't just leave basic customer reviews. Like if you want, in other words, like if you want your reviews to hold some sort of credibility, like if you want to be, in other words, be kind of recognized, if you will, as like an actual critic and not just, some reader that left a review, then I would suggest you start your own blog. Start your own blog. And you don't have to like pay for your own website. Like there's plenty of free platforms out there where you could start your own blog and, take the time and kind of create a name for yourself. You can create a name for yourself in that way, where it's like you either start a blog or start a Booktube channel, and actually like have something that you can point people to and say, hey, this is where I talk about books, or I've analyzed books. And then you actually have like your own body of work as far as that goes, that people can look through and see what kind of a reviewer or critic that you are.
Look like there is this ground game and sell things that you don't believe in. And it's one thing to be like, that's not my genre, but I will talk about it because maybe somebody.
It looks more professional, and it kind of makes it so you're doing yourself a favor in the sense that you're kind of separating yourself from the nonsense that Ian's talking about, where it's like you just get these no names. You just get a bunch of fucking, where it's just, she's talking about a bunch of randos just come out of the woodwork and just negative review bomb authors. But it's like, but me personally, I don't really care about basic customer reviews in that way. In other words, as a consumer, as an author, yeah, hell yeah, I want you guys to review my stuff. But as a consumer, I don't turn around and look at the reviews as a determining factor as to whether or not I'm going to pick up a particular piece of work. Usually I have my own outlets for discovering authors and figuring out how what works I want to read, and I want to give it the time of day. And basic customer reviews is not it. Now, editorials, like I follow a lot of booktubers. So if there's definitely been times where like I've seen booktubers talking about a particular book or something like that, and I'll be like, oh, that sounds interesting. See, that's one way of discovery for me. And I feel like if you have whether it be a Booktube channel or you run a blog, that adds an air of, I think that adds an air of credibility behind your name, because it means that you're willing to put in the effort, and you actually, it shows that you actually fucking care about what you're saying, because that's your name attached to those reviews.
Somebody else that isn't me will like it. And it's another thing to straight up lie. I don't like it. I don't like all the shady practices. I don't like how it makes it feel like it is readers and versus writers, and just writers trying to trick more people into buying their stuff instead of selling it on merit or having genuine discussions or genuine people like your stuff. It's a very weird thing. And
oh yeah, and I don't do tit for tat. Yeah, I agree that that's cringe, and it's not, and for the most part, it's just a big fucking waste of time. Can you imagine that? What are you going to do? You're going to go through, like, go from individual to individual to individual. That's like the follow for follow shit. Follow for follow. You follow me and I'll follow you. It doesn't mean anything. What if they're not even interested in what it is that you do? That's not going to be helpful.
And I don't know. I don't know what else to say. It's just very weird, and it's very disheartening, and it's how casual everybody is. Not everybody, but with lying and with deceit and with how difficult it is to have any conversations. And then even just saying this kind of stuff is very frightening and anxiety inducing, because you call this stuff out and it pisses some people off. And then others might see some of what you've said and be like, I've done something like that. Do they think that I'm fake? And then get mad at that. And it's just, I don't know. I'm just telling you the marketing things that I've seen and giving you an actual response to it as an emotionally defective person. Not that I don't have emotions, but my emotions work in unfortunate ways. So those are all of the marketing things that I wanted to bring up today. I know we spent so much time specifically on banned books, because that is, I would say that's the big one, but I feel like all of these are just being used a lot. Let me know what your thoughts are on any or.
Well, thanks for tagging me in that video and including me in that conversation, Ian. Definitely covered a lot of content there, and I appreciate that. And keeping it moving. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out reading time for tonight, because we're already over 2 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'll save that for next week, and that's what we're going to do. I like to keep it around 2 hours, definitely under 3 hours. And so I hope you guys had some fun. Hope you all discovered something new, but don't fret, because guess what? I will be back here for you guys next week. Let me just, before we sign off, we'll give one more once over for those of you who took the time to show up and participate in the chat. Definitely want to show some appreciation for you guys. So as we close out the show here, I'll go over some of these comments. So this is going back. This is going back when we were talking about some social media. J.R. Carroll chimes in. He says, when I used to focus on Twitter every day, at one point I was averaging 1 million views. Holy shit. A month, 1 million views a month. But it's so exhausting. I had to step away from my sanity. Yeah, and I'm not a proponent of putting out content for social platforms. Like, they use you, man. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like, it sucks, because it's like, it's not even really your stuff. Like, they own you on the social media platforms. Like, that's not even your shit that you own. You post it, and then you're boosting Twitter. You're boosting up Twitter and keeping people engaged on the platform. Me, I'd rather post like stuff that is effectively just glorified advertisements. And I want to pull people from the platform and get them someplace else where they can see the substance. You see what I'm saying? I rarely ever post substance on social media. Fuck that. I don't work for them. They're not paying me. You want to pay me? You want to put me on contract? Maybe I might be willing to do something like that. But I'm not delusional enough to think that that's actually something that would happen in reality. So until that day comes, fuck that. I don't work for them. Okay. That's why I don't post substance on social media. I just use it as a glorified link sharing tool. This is when Ali was saying, you are a brand and your book is part of your brand. Yes, but you are not your book. I think that was when you were saying, when I was saying you are not your book, we were talking about that. I think, your work to some degree, because I am, like I say, I am the person that can separate the art from the artist. And I think that someone's work can speak for itself. However, as you present yourself in terms of marketing and advertising, you are not your book. You are your actions, your behaviors, and how you present yourself as an individual, for sure. JR goes on, he says, if you look at the biggest indie authors in the world, especially sci fantasy, they all had a lot of money to start with so they could pump Amazon ads. Not to say their books aren't great, but money helps. Yeah, certainly. Of course, Allie had to put me in my place and say romance is the #1 best-selling genre. That's because more men need to learn how to pick up books. I would say this might, at the risk of sounding a little bit sexist, but I would say on average, women do a lot more reading than men do. On average. Perhaps. Maybe I'm full of shit right now and just talking out of my ass, but I feel like that's the case because the proof is in the pudding. Okay, as far as that goes. And yeah, I've seen that, especially on Kindle Vella. If you're familiar with serialized fiction, and Kindle Vella is a new platform. Guess what the fastest rising #1 category on Kindle Vella is? You guessed it, romance. More specifically, paranormal romance. However, still, it's just a subgenre of romance. Subgenre focused on romance. This is when Allie was talking about being on the committee about what books get into school libraries. She says, the messed up thing is that if you're on the committee, you're not allowed by law to discuss the book you're looking at, even online or with other people. It is the Sunshine Law. I did not know that. D.A. Bell writes, what's considered, quote, woke is when you put the message or agenda over the story, such as your story is pushing some LGBTQ plus message or agenda, can be considered woke. Yeah, I mean, that is, I think that's what it boils down to. Yeah. I don't think that's inherently, I don't think that's inherently bad per se, because it boils down to the writer. Like writers can be provocative and they can have these sorts of messages in their stories and whatnot. It's just that the consumer and the critics are going to decide what works, what doesn't work, what they think is trash, what they think is shoehorned into the story just for the sake of being there, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the plot or the context, or it's out of context, I should say. In other words, I think that people have a right to include whatever they want in their story. If they want to put that stuff, because I've talked about this before with Thomas, is like, and I stand by that. You write the story you want to write. look, if you want to go woke, go broke, by all means, but you don't then get to turn around and say, you don't get to then turn around and play victim and say, you guys are a bunch of bigots for not liking my work. No. Not everybody that consumes the work is going to find the work digestible. In other words, if people consume your work and they don't find it digestible in that sense, the work itself might actually make them throw up in their mouth a little bit, and if your work makes people throw up in their mouth a little bit, and that's not what your aim was with the work, I mean, people are entitled to their opinion as far as that goes. You don't get to turn around and cry wolf and try to turn around and attack readers and say, you're a bigot, you're a this, you're a that, you're a sexist, you're a racist. No, you don't get to turn around and slander readers and consumers like that. People are entitled to their opinions. Reading is very much like a form of catharsis for both sides of the coin, whether it be the writer or the reader. D.A. Bell goes on. He says, for example, I read an article about how Marvel canceled a Luke Cage miniseries because the author was using George Floyd's death allegory for the story. It's weird. Luke Cage was hired to protect a Derek Chauvin stand-in until the court date. See, I don't even, and one thing, like, I'm not familiar with that, but one thing for me, like, just even from like a business standpoint, like, why would you even want to do that? It's not evergreen. It's very much pop culture. It's very much like current events. Like, why would you want to create a piece of work that revolves around, like, it's very much revolves around current events? It's not going to be evergreen. In other words, it's not going to stand the test of time. It's not evergreen. It's not something that people are going to be talking about, years to come. It's a here today, gone tomorrow, throwaway fucking media. That's what political cartoons are for. You want to do that pop culture, political messaging type of stuff, fucking learn how to draw some political cartoons or something like that. You know what I mean? It's quick, it's fast, it's in periodicals, it's one and done. You see it, you get a chuckle, you share an opinion about it, and then you throw it the fuck away, or you line your bird cage with it. You know what I mean? You're gonna, why I will not understand any creator out there that would waste their time, money, energy, and effort to create a product that is based on something that is just has to do with current events or pop culture. I don't know. Maybe for if it's like a documentary type thing, maybe, but just a standalone piece of work, like in this instance, it's kind of fucking bad business, in my opinion. Yeah, no one's perfect as far as that goes, D.A. Bell. I see that other comment on there. Yeah, I mean, that's what I meant by that. I know that there's plenty of men, and I'd like to, if I could do anything, serve as some sort of inspiration, maybe inspire some other men out there to pick up some books and say, hey, look, you're not the only, if you get into Booktube, I just want you to know you're not the only man involved in Booktube, okay? And I don't adhere, and I don't, I'm not following what the women are doing. You know what I mean? The women do what they want to do. They read what they want to read, okay? I'm interested in man stuff. You know what I mean? Not to say that I would never pick up any kind of romance book. I've given romance books a try every now and then. It's just not something that I seek out. My interests are very type of traditionally masculine type of interests. And the only thing that I was trying to say that with men typically don't really pick up books. And the reason why romance is number one is because men, I think, not that men aren't interested in storytelling. It's just they get into it in different ways. Like, for instance, nowadays it's gaming. So like storytelling is everywhere. Movies, gaming, what have you. I mean, this is, common sense stuff, but it would be nice. I think it would be nice if there were more men involved that I could connect with, like in the Booktube scene and stuff like that. Because I know that, at least I would have some more guys that I could, relate with and stuff like that. It's hard for me to relate with the YA chicks on Booktube. You know what I'm saying? These YA girls, and the shit that they read. Not that I don't give them the time of day sometimes, but it's just like, they're women. You know what I mean? They're women and they're into women shit. So, I like, it would be nice if there were more men. And by men, I mean manly men, not effeminate men who are effectively just, following whatever it is the women are doing, and they're copying the same sentiment that the women are saying. You know what I mean? No, I mean like men who are like more masculine. They're into more manly things, have kind of more aren't ashamed of having a male perspective, offering an actual male perspective on things, opposed to taking a more effeminate approach to matters. You know what I mean? That would be nice. That's all I'm saying. It would be nice. Well, that's it. Is that a fact? Is that a fact? Well, hope you guys have some fun. I'll see you guys. I'll be here for you guys next week. And again, throughout the week, I'm going to be posting. Be on the lookout. I will be posting some new Hot Topic content during the week as well. Also with the voting on the poll on the community tab. You can stay updated as far as that goes. So I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.